I have one of my dear friends on the show today, Jonathan Van Ness. You may know them as JVN, host of Getting Curious, hair guru on Queer Eye, or all of the above. Today's conversation is sometimes playful, sometimes serious, and always a good time. This is 4D with Demi Lovato. Well, hello, Jonathan.
Hi.
Hi. I just had so much fun doing your podcast, Getting Curious. And I am so excited to have you on my podcast now, 4D with Demi Lovato, me. And I love you.
Thank you so much for having me, and I love you so much. And thank you for coming on Getting Curious. And also, as I said in that episode, that every time I see you or hang out for the first 2 years, I'm gonna be like, the wave of nervousness is gonna come back.
Cute.
And no, it totally did. I was like, what's this feeling? Is it the coffee or my nerve? I just love you so much. It's still surreal for me that I'm even in a position in my life where I can be with someone who I have loved and respected and just admired your work for such a long time. So it's just, that's just amazing. And thank you so much for having me. I love you so much.
Oh my gosh. Every time I have someone on this show, I want to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves, whether that's comedian, hair guru, or just really, really sweet friend of mine.
I love all those things. I love all those things. Not to sound weird, but see me as I am. I don't know. I love to help people. I'm really passionate. I'm really curious. I also am really into this idea of what I've been through as an HIV positive non-binary person. I had a lot of struggles and issues getting, access to healthcare. And there's a lot of stigma that I experience as someone living with HIV that I want to help people live through. And there's a lot of stigma for so many people that's intersectionally affecting folks that are within the HIV positive community that I also want to be able to speak to. So yeah, I just want you to see me as a multifaceted person who has lots of feelings that I, want to share with people.
Aww.
I really think that I'm really a multi-hyphenate. I am a comedian, I'm an author, I'm an entertainer, I'm a hairstylist, I'm a producer, I am an activist, I am all of those things. I'm also a cat parent and a dog parent, and and I'm also someone who just adores you.
Oh, oh, good. You're so wonderful. Your work that you do is so inspiring and it's so positive. But do you ever feel like being held as a beacon of positivity affects you in a different way?
Yeah, I think that being held up as this beacon of positivity it's a huge blessing, and I love that I have been able to have this experience. I think that I try to I think if anything, it's made me feel different for sure, and more trying to change the perception of positivity into what is more authentic, and in that yes, I am a positive person, but I'm also someone who gets angry and gets upset and feels things, and I have guilt, I have shame. I wrote a whole book about it. One thing that I think about is just wanting to show that there is just more dimensionality to me than what you might see on Queer Eye. And I think that in anything that we're seeing with any public figure in any space, it's and I think that I've even learned this in my career, because I've definitely, I feel in the first year of Queer Eye, I was quick to get on Twitter and be why is so-and-so doing this? Or why is someone doing that? It's I was very quick to call someone out or want someone to do better. And then it's well, let's be really clear about what I'm doing and how I'm approaching my platform. And I'm definitely not someone who is always in positive. I've fucked up all sorts of times.
Right.
And where I could have done better all sorts of times. And I've had my ass handed to me in all sorts of ways. And so that have not brought out my most positive aspects in all sorts of ways. So that's that. But yeah, I think that it makes you feel you can't mess up, or that people are quick to be gotcha,
Right.
So, and that's okay, because things do come with the territory. But I also think that I always find myself saying not to answer in like 10-minute sentences. And also when I fucking ask questions on my podcast, it also takes me 10 minutes to answer a goddamn question. I guess I like hearing myself talk. But I forgot what I was going to say because I got nervous about talking too much. It'll come to me later.
You're all good. Can we start with your childhood? Like, what gave you joy as a child?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Bread pretzels with like nacho cheese. Miniature powdered donuts. The 1992 Olympics, actually, but before that, let's not get ahead of ourselves. The 1991 World Figure Skating Championships and the whole precipice of the 1994 Olympics, which was a whole like Tanya moment. I was very like Christy Yamaguchi, Nancy, Tanya. Those were my homegirls. Those were my everything. Those were my sun, my moon, my stars. They were like my pre-Michelle Kwan. I was really obsessed with figure skating, really obsessed with gymnastics, really obsessed with Whitney and Mariah. All of those snacks that I just mentioned also really got me through. Shannon Miller, honey. Obviously, the most decorated, well, at the time, she was the most decorated American athlete of the 1992 Barcelona Games. Yes. There's still, it's still a little controversial. Everyone loves them a Tatiana Tatsu moment, but did Shannon really lose to her? Who knows? There's a lot of controversial 1-2 finishes, okay? I said what I said. Tatiana Gutsu. Yes, Jonathan, get your 1992 gymnasts right, okay?
Wow.
But yeah, those really brought me joy and continued to do so. I also, as a child, much like now, am someone who had like lots of curiosity. So like rocks, stamps, like collecting shit.
You collected rocks?
Rocks, stamps, wildflowers.
I had a rock collection.
You did?
I did. I used to collect rocks, either if I traveled somewhere. Like one time I went to New Mexico and I went to visit my dad that was out there. And we went to this hot air balloon festival. And I picked up a rock that was out there that, I always just loved. And I don't know. I held on to it for years. I didn't realize that most of the rocks I had collected were actually crystals. And I continue to collect crystals to this day. So I thought that was a really beautiful correlation between the fact that I was already looking at crystals as a child and didn't realize their spiritual meaning.
I love that too for you.
Yeah. Thanks.
I think
Thank you.
I need to locate my rock collection. There's definitely some geodes in there, which I feel like is that's crystal-y.
Yeah. Definitely.
But I think I also just liked some, rocks.
Oh yeah. No, I definitely had some just dirty old rocks in there that I just felt connected to. I don't know.
And I was like, this is like a dinosaur fossil, but meanwhile, it was probably just got banged up by some other rock. But I just I was desperate for there to be fossils.
Same.
Jurassic Park. I was like, this is definitely a fossil. Okay, get out of here.
Okay, I have to tell you, I got a pair of dinosaur eggs when I was in Sedona recently, and it is the coolest collection to my rock collection. Yeah,
I'm shook.
You have to come over
closed?
and see them. They're closed. Yes,
they're an intact egg.
They're 2 intact dinosaur eggs. Yeah, in a fossil, in a big fossil rock.
I was so have you shake? I was like,
no. They're in a fossil.
Jonathan, you're such a dum-dum. Sometimes I can't help you. Fossil dinosaur eggs. Major obsessed.
Yeah, you have to come see.
Wait, yes. But also Twister. Are you too young to have been obsessed with the
movie Twister? Yes, of course I was obsessed with the movie Twister because you know what? That movie made me want to be a chief meteorologist after I saw it. I was like, I'm going to go chase tornadoes.
Me too.
Yes, yes.
I'm still not over it. Bill Paxton.
It's so good.
I am obsessed.
It's so good.
We got cows. I love Twister so much.
We got cows.
And talk about a head of hair. That blow dry on that therapist girlfriend that just was not right for him, but still, bless her heart, we loved her.
Oh my God, I have to go back and watch it.
It's such
I might watch it tonight, actually.
Oh my God. Twister.
It is such a good movie.
Oh, it does it for me.
Yes.
And there's young people listening to this, because I feel like you probably have a very like multifaceted like range of fans. I feel like you probably have a lot of like young folks. If you have not seen Twister, it is like, and Forrest Gump.
And Forrest Gump, yes. Yes, of course. But Twister is a different cultural experience.
Not to be one of those people that's older than someone and then to be like, well, when I was your age, but I do feel like this thing happened like in the last 2 years, like 32 and up. I feel like that was the moment where I started being like, people don't know about the 1996 Olympics anymore. Like they have not seen Sister Act 1 and 2. They don't know Twister. They don't know Forrest Gump. They don't know like some of the stuff that like is just so formative that I just thought that everyone knew.
I know exactly what you're saying. Wait, okay, so you said that you've had a supportive family, and what does that look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, my mom is amazing. I had an amazing stepdad who passed away of cancer in 2012, who I think about all the time, and I loved it. It's okay. I read about him a lot in my book, and he, I would not have been who I am today without like seeing, what my therapist and what PACT therapists would call like a secure functioning relationship. So like, it was really good for me to see like their relationship up close. And yeah, but I mean, also when I say supportive family, like we also had a lot of struggles, and there was also a lot of really, really tough times. That not to like keep referencing my goddamn fucking memoir, but we know which I talk about, and I'm yeah, so I mean, they were supportive, but I think that we definitely like had our struggles in getting there. I am, a survivor of sexual abuse. I'm someone who has dealt with drug addiction. And so I think, all of those things, manifested at a young age. And so it has been hard to, rectify that with my family. But I think that they are still there for me. They love me. They have been there for me through every step of the way, even though we have really differed on like our opinions and worldviews and maybe how those things transpired. Also, even just saying some of those things, it's like a lot of times I think that we have this false expectation of our family to be these perfect people that aren't going to hurt us and aren't going to like really hurt us and really maybe do things that aren't ultimately supportive and are actually kind of destructive and like not supportive. And I think that we all have to think for ourselves, like, well, how much of that are we, willing to entertain? And because of, financial limitations and, societal limitations, a lot of times you might have a family that isn't supportive and you can't up and leave. You're not old enough to up and leave. You have to stay there, for your safety and, barring like, your physical imminent danger. And that's also its whole other, conversation. But I think that I know that for speaking from experience, I was always really bothered by this idea that I wasn't normal and that what I was going through wasn't normal and that my sexuality wasn't normal and my gender identity wasn't normal and the things that I was interested in weren't normal. I got bullied a lot. I got made fun of like mercilessly, like all the time. And so I was really scared that I wasn't normal. And I think that what makes me feel, including the support level of my family as compared to other people. So I think one thing that I would want people to know is that, normal is as abnormal as there are people in the world. And we all have our own experience. And so that feeling of like isolation or loneliness that like, no one else must be going through this or no one else must know what this feels like. There is human connection and there are people that know what you're going through and can be that humanity and that human connection for you if you can be vulnerable enough to reach out for it, even in spite of having been hurt before. And so that is really, I think, ultimately like what life is. It's like taking the chance to be vulnerable and take risks with people, even though we have been hurt. And we do have reasons to like shut down and, and run away and hide. And that's especially true of family. So I would just say like Dion von Furstenberg taught me this, honey. And so like if Queen said it, it's true, not to name drop. But she said, the most important relationship we will ever have is the relationship with ourselves. Yeah. And I also think societally speaking, we get taught, there's like these hallmark ideas like what our parents should be like. And, these like relationships that we would have with our family. And then it's like, oh my God, I don't have that. I don't feel that. Like maybe there's something wrong with me. Honey, no. Like there's as many relationships with your parents and your family as there are, like I said, people in the world. So just take the pressure off a little bit. We are all where we are and let's really work on our relationship with ourselves. And I think that can really help weather a lot of storms.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, you said it yourself. You said that we both are survivors in many ways. survivors of sexual assault, survivors of addiction, trauma, the trauma of fame. What was that initial emotional excavation like for you? You know, putting your truth out there and revealing so much of your truth. How was that for you?
It was cool, you know. It was one of those things where, like, you know, I felt really driven because I felt like I did not want anyone else to go through some of the hardships that I went through. Once the book came out and once I found myself on, the nightly show with Stephen Colbert talking about like what undetectable equals untransmittable and like talking about like living with HIV, I was just like, this escalated quickly. This is like a lot. And but I mean, it was good, but there was just like, Brene Brown calls it like vulnerability hangover. And I talk a lot about Brene's work, like in my book.
I love
on Queer
Brene
Eye.
Brown.
I love her so much. I can't stand. I just look up to her so much. And I think that her work is so incredible. And she's another person who's, you know, work in scholarship. I don't think that I would be where I am without it either. Cause I really think that her work has changed my life. On vulnerability and in her books. In my book, I talk about like internal family systems or like parts therapy, which is something that I'm like really, really into. And I think if I had to talk about my own system, it's like the part that I was really driven to share my story was like wanting to help, you know, ease other people's suffering. It was also wanting to be able to tell my story on my own terms because living in such a public space and, you know, living with HIV, I felt like I was nervous to talk about it for such a long time because I didn't want to be defined by my status. But then eventually I felt like, oh my God, I feel like I really do need to talk about this because I feel like I'm like sacrificing what my truth and my experience is and a lot of my platform because I can't talk about all of the aspects of what I've gone through and dealt with. And so for that reason, I felt really, really driven. Then I, you know, did the press tour, and from the time the book came out, which was in September, until the pandemic, which was in March of 2020, it's like a 6-month period. It was amazing, but I think I also really felt like a little tiny bit a little traumatized, I think. Just, you know, seeing people say stuff on Twitter, like, you know, making jokes of like, you know, me dying of AIDS or me like just a lot of like, there were just so many things that I saw that were really, really intense and just such an assault on who I am and the work that I've done that it was just, and I'm still think I'm dealing with the trauma, honestly, because sometimes I feel like I haven't been able to be as vulnerable since, and I'm scared to like talk about certain things because it's just, sometimes people can just be like, not to complain, but they can just be so fucking mean, especially on Twitter. And I think that when you just see certain things written and said about yourself, it just, and I think that there's also been times, not necessarily on Twitter, but I think in my mind and like, especially before becoming a public figure, where like, you don't really know how much that sucks until you've experienced it.
Right.
And it does hurt really bad.
Well, you can never really prepare for the way that people knock you down. You can never really prepare for that moment when all of a sudden someone on the internet is tearing you apart. You know, I've experienced it too, and it's an awful, awful feeling. But what I have learned is that for every person that's talking negatively about me, there's another fan online that's saying something positive about my spirit, my soul, not just my voice or who I am as a person. So I always find that there's always a lover for every hater that's out there.
I think that's true tenfold in like, you know, like, well, actually like 150,000 fold in your case, maybe hopefully like tenfold in mine. But I do, you know, according to my therapist, she says that like it's our negativity bias that makes us really stick to those like the negative things that people say. And that's really like our survival instinct, like scanning the horizon for like the tiger that's going to come fucking kill you in your sleep. And like, you know, that's your survival instinct. And like,
right,
you know, just going overdrive, because especially if you're a survivor, you have been through a lot. And I think also in this industry, there is so much expectations and like both false and real, like all of it. And it's hard to like decipher your reality when you're getting so much information from so many places. And it's just a lot, but I'm into it. I love it. I'm really happy and I want to keep doing it. Really, I want to talk about like, you know, HIV social safety nets and the gender binary and people that live outside of it and LGBTQ equity and really LGBTQ liberation. And those are the things that I want to focus on.
You said that when you first became famous or recognizable, that people stopping you on the street was joyous. Also, it can be sometimes triggering. Can you talk about protecting yourself while still being an open person and being open to connection with people?
My husband and I were on our honeymoon in the Turks and Caicos this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sitting there at dinner and these two really sweet girls came up to us at dinner and I just like didn't want to fucking do it. And I was just like, Queens, I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'll do it with you. And like on our way out, like I'll take a selfie. But like, I just like, we're like, I'm like at dinner with my husband, like watching the sunset and like, I just, namaste, I love you so much. And then as soon as I did it, I felt so fucking bad because they were just these like nice fucking like 19-year-old girls. And I was just like, oh, I'm a bitch. I'm a bad person. So then I had to like send them an appetizer and then I had to send them a note. And then I was like, girls, will you please come back up and take a fucking selfie? I'm so sorry I'm an asshole. I'm like, so sorry I'm a nightmare. And then I like felt bad about it for 3 days. So now I'm just like, girl, take the fucking picture. And then sometimes if I'm like late to like, you know, going where I'm going, like at least in New York, I just would be like, because sometimes, you know what it really is? It's like when you're trying to go somewhere and, you know, like when like someone's like passing out pamphlets, but you're not trying to like stand there and like have a conversation about the pamphlets because you're late to your dentist appointment or like, you know, your cat just died or whatever the fuck. Like you're going through it and you're just like putting your headphones on because you're like not trying to like talk to the person with the pamphlet. That's kind of like what it's like, except for everyone has a pamphlet, right?
Right.
So sometimes you want to learn about stuff, but other times you just want to go to your goddamn dentist appointment. So really it's just like now I'm kind of just like, oh, will you like walk with me to my dentist appointment? Because I just don't want to like stand here like I just don't want to stand here. So I'll just like take my little headphones off and like, okay, Queen, it's fine. Let's just come walk with me. Yeah. And then that works for me now, like out in the wild when I'm like, I'm just don't stop right in front of me. Like just like come with me and then we can take a selfie on the road and you know, or on the way and because you just gotta go places and I'm already late anyway. So I usually just don't have a time to like dabble, you know?
I love that. Just walk with me.
Just walk with me. Come on.
I love that. I'm going to steal that. You seem comfortable being vulnerable.
Yeah, I'm comfy.
Is this your natural state of being?
Well, not to quote Brene Brown all the time, but, you know, she does say that, like, people that are the most happy are the ones who are the most willing to be vulnerable. So, because you can't, like, you know, do the whole, like, selectively, like, numbing your feelings thing. Because then but I still try. So I'm not saying that I'm perfect. So I do still try. And when I say that, I mean, I'll sit on the couch and watch, like, every women's Olympic team final from 2004 to, like, 16 and, like, snack on a bunch of shit. Because I just, like, you know what it is? It's, like, the vignettes. It's, like, those little, like, NBC, like, vignette packages about, like, their little, like, training things, like, behind the scenes. And then they're, like, there's, like, the slow motion of them, like, waving to the crowd when they, like, come out. When I think about, like, where my trauma is, it's because I'm, like, all I ever wanted to do was, like, star in my own vignette as, like, a gymnast growing up. But it just, like, wasn't my truth. Which is why probably now as a stand-up comedian, like, all of my shows open up with me in a literal USA leotard doing, like, a full-on floor routine, like, on a bouncy track. Like, that's
I'm obsessed
literally
with
how my routine, like, that's, like, what my stand-up, like, set starts out with. I'm a nightmare. So yes, it is my natural state. However, sometimes I just want to sit on the couch and watch, like, the Olympics for 6 hours, like, you know, with my husband and my cats, and I don't really want you to fucking talk to me.
And you can come over and do that whenever you want. I feel like you should come over. We should go into my theater and we should watch the Women's Olympics. And you can show me all of the people that you're talking about because I only know of a handful.
Is your inclination towards figure skating? That's kind of what I hear you saying. Are you actually? Yes.
Yeah, I guess it is. And then now, obviously, it's Simone Biles. And so.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, she's like iconic. But there's like iconic, honey. But there's also like, I mean, there's just like a lot of iconic American gymnasts who are like electro heroines. Not to sound like Moira, but it's like literally just like. And even like international queens who just have like, you know what it is both with figure skating and gymnastics. And again, back to those vignettes, they do such a good job setting the stage for like, you know, those little like dramatic packages like before it starts where it like, do you know what I'm saying when I say these like NBC vignettes?
I don't think I know.
It like sets the stage of like, it'll be like every little girl has a dream to win gold. And then it'll be like the Romanian team going like this. And then like the American team being like, and then like, yes. It's like that. And then it's like the gold medal spinning on like the seamless studio background. And like the girl sitting on like the apple box. Like, and then like Natalie Imbruglia starts and it's like,
you want to know how I know that what I know this is like is because before UFC fights, they do the same vignettes and they're like, you know, and now, or the new, or whatever they say, you know, they're like, who's it going to be? And they do the vignettes.
They're so emotionally stirring, these vignettes. What is that psychologically that is just, but also I think it's because I was like little when it started. And you know how like, it's like if you watched like Hocus Pocus, for instance, my makeup artist, I think it's my makeup artist. Who was it? It was some of my life. I can't remember who right now, but they did not watch Hocus Pocus when they were little. And so they don't think it's cool now. They think it like is a shitty movie. And I'm like, you're fucking crazier than a shithouse rat.
I haven't seen it since I was little.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I haven't seen it since I was little. Yeah. I'm going to have to rewatch it.
It's the hair and the makeup makes it like a queer classic. And when they do the I Put a Spell on You breakdown with Bette Midler fronting it. It's really like, ooh, the hair and the makeup. Did you just see that thing on, I think it was Drinks for Gays? I put it on my Insta stories the other day. Do you follow Drinks for Gays on Instagram?
No, I don't.
Really genius, like perfection memes. Like they really make me lol on like a daily basis.
Okay.
But so in Hocus Pocus and Friends, like that, in the opening of Friends, like that.
Yes, I saw that. It was the same water fountain.
I honestly wanted to go to the horizon and like push it to make sure I wasn't on the Truman Show. I was like, is everything fake? Like, is there like someone in the fucking controls up there?
Yeah.
Like, this is too much. I don't know why that upset me on such a level, but that really, I don't know what that was.
That is like very, I was shooketh after.
It was like the equivalent of, not that you asked, but the last salon that I had in LA before I stopped doing hair full time was literally 3 blocks away from the house that they used for the exterior shots of the fucking Golden Girls.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to like go eat lunch across from it when I was a hairdresser, but then the lady that lived there asked me not to after like a year.
That's incredible.
I used to like go sit across the street and just like eat my snacks because it was just like 2 blocks away from the salon. And then she was like, can you not? Like, we don't like when people do that. And I was like, oh, I live. And she's like, no, you don't. And I was like, I mean, okay, I'll bye. I was like, I live right there. She was like, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
I was like, it's my crop top and my accent that's like giving it away because I bet you like so many queer people just like come to that like street when they realize
I'm
and just like
sure.
do photo shoots. I literally used to go do like when Insta stories first started, I feel like I was still doing hair and I was like every day I was like walking in front of I just was obsessed with that house.
I have one more question for you. I ask all of my guests when they come on this show, what does living in the fourth dimension mean to you?
I think living in the fourth dimension for me, if I'm really giving an authentic answer, which I want to, I feel like it's those moments when you really realize that we are not these stories that we tell ourselves. And that ultimately to me is like what means to be present. It's like what it means to be present. And it means that I'm not in the future. It means that I'm not in the past. It means that I'm like right here. And I think that in some ways I'm so grateful for my life and for my recovery and for the opportunities that I've been given, even like sitting here with you, like it still is like surreal for me after like 2 hours. I still like kind of can't believe. And sometimes I feel like I have this, but sometimes I feel like I have this like protective part in my system that like almost tries to like kind of come out and almost like wants to numb some of the amazing things that have happened. Cause it's like, I almost feel like I couldn't like really feel how amazing it's been. Like even just looking at my cute shoes behind me, even thinking about like that I have a fucking house, that I have like a safe place to live, that I can have 5 cats, that I have like a husband who loves me, that like I don't want to self-destruct all the time. Like sometimes I feel like I'm so grateful for it. Like I almost couldn't handle it. But then ultimately what living in the fourth dimension means is that I actually am strong enough to handle it. And my centered self actually like can sit with all of these feelings and experiences. And I actually do have the capacity to experience the joy and the setbacks in the present moment. It's just I have parts in my system that, you know, when I'm not in that fourth dimension, honey, might come out. And sometimes I listen to those voices when really my centered self is like, no, honey, it doesn't mean that your story isn't true, because our narrative and what we've been through is our story, and it is true. But it's also true that we are so much deeper than that. And we are such layered, beautiful people that could never be summed up into like that because it's that whole definition of like, we are just our humanity is so much more broad than the story that we tell ourselves.
Yeah. Wait, that is the perfect answer. That's why I asked that question, is for answers like that. So you absolutely crushed that. And
I'm sorry I landed my triple Lutz with no double-footed landing.
Mic drop.
Okay,
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Or skate drop. I don't know how.
It would be like plus 5 GOE. It'd be like that. Because that's like the highest like grade of execution that you can get. But maybe you can get more than that, but I'm pretty sure that's like the highest. Or at least it's very high.
Well, it's that plus 12.
Wow. You better tell the ISU there's been a judging change. Okay.
There has been a judging change. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for talking to me on my podcast, but also doing your podcast. I had so much fun. We absolutely need to hang out immediately.
I can't wait. I love you so much.
All right. I'll talk to you later, Jonathan.